the Prize Picks crossover, sponsored and brought to you by Prize Picks every Thursday. I'm telling you, all of these crossovers around the Locked On Podcast Network is brought to you by Prize Picks and presented by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code all lowercase Locked On NFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. All right, Jeff, tell me the keys to the Browns winning this game this weekend.
Well, there are some things in favor of Cleveland this weekend. Coach Stefanski in his career with Cleveland is 22-8 after a loss. That's a pretty impressive record and pretty impressive way to basically, get over whatever happened the week before. Other thing is, offensively, it really can't get worse. You really have to think there's really nowhere to go but up. Big key to this for Cleveland is going to be, look, Jedrick Wills still isn't practicing. Why they even activated him to this point certainly has me curious, because if you activated him and he still can't practice, you're almost just basically wasting a roster spot and know you're going to a practice squad guy, for another game day. So it doesn't necessarily make so much sense there. Does Jack Conklin make it back for this week? Practiced yesterday, limited. That's all we know to this point. A lot of people, Conklin's going to left tackle. Jack Conklin was a left tackle at Michigan State. So that's not that big of a deal. Plus, I think with the knee injury, it's probably easier for him to play the left side right now than it is to play the right side. So if they can get Jack Conklin out there, all of a sudden that opens up the possibility that they should be able to run the ball with a little more success. It was kind of weird last week. Jerome Ford played. Pierre Strong played. They invested in Dante Foreman. He played one snap. So it wasn't, for me, I wasn't sure I was never a big fan of the Foreman signing, but the one action he did have in the preseason, he actually looked pretty good, got me a little more positive. Then all of a sudden we got to real game action. He didn't play. You've got to be able to run the ball in the NFL. And it doesn't have to be great, but you've got to let the defense know that you are at least going to attempt to run the ball. Otherwise, you get young pass rushers, Josh Allen, you get Trayvon Walker, guys just teeing off. And if you can't run it with any success whatsoever, once you're in 2nd and 9, 2nd and 8, we know the way this league works. Very rare you're going to see a draw play. If your quarterback's got to run, unless you're Lamar Jackson, he's normally running for his life, not running because that's what was called. So they've got to do that. It's going to be an interesting matchup because, as you said, the Jaguars have bigger receivers. Now, the Browns do have a good secondary. MJ Emerson, good guy, physical guy. Greg Newsome, great in the slot. Just not an overall big, thick guy, but he had a great week last week. Denzel Ward, the one thing he is not, is big. So this is, a tougher matchup for these guys. So you really got to be anticipatory on your angles and you're watching the receivers. Obviously, the passing lanes, you got to be really, really smart with that. The Browns just need to tighten things up. You can't have 2 interceptions. Two interceptions in a ball game is most likely going to cost you a ball game 9 out of 10 times. We know the way this league works. 6 sacks. 6 sacks, probably going to cost you 10 out of 10 times in the NFL. It's just the way it works. This team just has to overall get better. And I think, like I said, getting out of Cleveland, going on the road right now with the way the team performed, certainly the off-field stuff that is now again around this team needs to just go into Jacksonville, handle their business. I do believe the last 2 times they played Jacksonville, they won late in the year last year, a couple of years ago when they went down to Jacksonville. This team just needs to get focused. And because the thing was, this first stretch of 6 games, the hope was maybe 4-2. And because it's going to get business are really going to pick up in the second half of the season for the Browns. So they need to get back on the right track, because if you get to the second half of the season looking like, oh man, we kind of need to run the table, or we only maybe have 1 loss, when you got to play all your conference games, you got to play the Chiefs, you got to play the Dolphins, it's just not a realistic thing to focus on and believe will happen. But if they can run the ball with some, respectability, play some better defense, they should be good.
Now, the thing with Jacksonville, I'm going to keep it real simple. They just can't be somebody's antibiotic. If somebody's sick, let them stay sick. Don't be the elixir. We ain't trying to be no heat pad for nobody. They just have a habit of doing that, though, and letting teams get right at their expense. They can't turn the ball over in critical times. And then, so that means they have to have a short memory from last week. You can't be letting that baggage stew, even though all of us were angry with the way that the game went. They were going up 24-7, and it just forgot to hold on to the football. So here's the deal. Do everything you did last week, but just finish it, right? Don't let it linger. Have a short memory. They have a nice rotation along their defensive line. They can't let Cleveland get well on the offensive line this week. And even if they bring some people back, it should still be in their mind that if they watch the tape against Dallas, it was a total annihilation, in my opinion, on the line of scrimmage. So Trayvon Walker, Josh Allen can do some of the same things that Micah Parsons and Lawrence did last week. If they can do that, I think they'll be fine. They need to continue to pressure Deshaun Watson. Do not just run past him and allow him to have running lanes so he can get out and keep them in short down and distance situations. The Jaguars have to get Cleveland off the field on third down. Now watch this. When they're on offense, they have to convert third downs. They have to make sure that they keep their possessions, don't turn the ball over, don't get dumb penalties. I think the Jaguars can win this game by 10 points if they do all of those things. They're a good football team, but they have to win. I think it's a must win because they now go on the road the next 2 weeks. They go to Buffalo and then they go to Houston. And I'm not saying they can't beat those teams. What I'm telling you is you don't want to go in there lame and limping because you're bleeding and hemorrhaging because you're 0-2. That is not what you want to do when you go play those teams. You want to go in there with a lot of confidence and go in there with a little bit of a chip on your shoulder. I think they're going to get it done, man, but we'll see.